Good afternoon, traders, and welcome to Friday Wrap Up. Joel's hit and misses, along with Dennis's. We're going to look at what we got right and what we got wrong this week.
Yeah, we'll go through the overall market here. Obviously, the market gave back a lot of its gains here today. We will discuss our good calls and bad calls. We had some good calls on Apple this week, and we're also going to discuss where the market is going from here.
Yeah, Dennis, you have to look at the market today. Did not get the number I wanted on the unemployment report. Really couldn't follow through on that strong Friday, the rally that we had last week. And then today, looks like the Bears got a hold of the market.
The Bears got a hold of the market at 8:30 when the unemployment number came out. We immediately fell 8-9 points. We've been drifting down here all day today. So as you can see here, we held up. We were up 1, 2, 3 days. I actually was bullish, and you were coming into the week as well. And that worked until yesterday morning. The market slowly started to drift down. Then obviously news comes out, and when we always say this on the show, when fundamentals come in play, the technicals go away. And when you have such a market impact event like an unemployment number coming out, it's always a good idea to square your positions before the report to avoid unnecessary losses, because it's really like a coin flip when these numbers come out, because there's definitely that chance where you could be wrong.
Well, and I think everyone's wrong by thinking that unemployment is really ever going to get any lower in this country. I mean, I think that the level of structural unemployment that we have right now, people are focusing on 8.1, 8.2. If anybody thinks we're going back down to 5, 5.5, 6%, I just don't see it. I mean, we have lost so many manufacturing jobs, especially here in the Motor City. Jobs have gone overseas. I think the market better want to try something else to focus on, because I don't think that number is going to be getting better for a long, long time. It's going to get worse.
Well, it's a third bad one in a row here. The last two were disasters. This one was a disaster too. We were saying on the morning show, if it was anything but a disaster, I think the market could have held up, but it was a disaster again. So it seems like whenever we get the economic data, it's not been good. So, and I don't see what's going to turn the economic data around anytime soon. We do have catalysts going. We do have earnings season coming up, so that could drive the market higher here. But this is my concern here now, and I'll play a clip in a second here. But just to talk about, Joel had a good call on this earlier. But just to continue with my thought, this is my concern, is that you had a short squeeze going on early in the week. You've pulled back significantly now, where most of those shorts have got covered, or if not, they're covering now. So now you don't have that short squeeze potential anymore, and you have people who have bought it who are now nervous. So just as I was bullish in the week earlier in the week, I'm not saying I'm bearish here, but it's more of a coin flip now. I don't think the path of least resistance is higher anymore. I think as you come back up here 10, 15 points, if we were to rally, I think you'll be met with more sellers. So it gets tricky from here.
Yeah, what about the Goldman Sachs call for us 2 short weeks ago? I was dipping down to 12.85. They just missed it before, but if you're talking about the path of least resistance, I think we could easily get down to 1,300 once again and test that critical support.
I mean, how many times have we been down there between this 1350, 1300? So yeah, once you start really rocking and rolling to the downside, there isn't a heck of a lot until you at least get down to this 1320 area. So we're at 1344 here now, kind of in the middle of nowhere, which makes it a little bit concerning.
And also, just to finish this thought up, the premise from the rally last week was, of course, another solution to the European solution, European crisis. And now we just have to come into earnings season and see what that delivers.
Yeah, Alcoa will be obviously reporting next week. We'll talk about that at the end of the show. First, I wanted to play a clip. I wanted to give you some props. You did have a good call on the market overall here this morning. You talked about this 1355 level. I'm going to play the clip here just for our listeners.
Market has to hold 1355. If we take out 1355, there's a lot of air under this market. Could easily get into the low 1340 handle, perhaps 1342.75. Folks, you got to remember, we had that big rally last Friday. There's a lot of air underneath this market. If we start to go in reverse, it's not going to be pretty.
That was a great call this morning that you had, Joel. 1355. You said if we took that area out, I'm going to bring up the just the daily chart, that there was nothing below. We've been pretty much straight down. You said it could get as low as 1342.75. Look at the low, 1342.25. You're right on the money there. I guess I should have been listening to you and shorting this market through the 1355 area. I didn't, my bad, but that was, hopefully some of our listeners did. That was a great call.
Yeah, we just kind of ended the 4th of July rally on July 3rd. Had that high close at 1368, and the market kind of fizzled after that.
Yeah, well, and it's definitely fizzled here today. So I want to move on though to Apple. We don't want to talk about the overall market the whole time here. Just this is another stock here that has had a heck of a run here. It is pulling back somewhat today, but we were talking, we were pretty bullish. We're going to give ourselves some props on Apple because we had Apple right from the get-go this week. We were pretty bullish, saying that we thought it was going to see eventually 600. But so earlier in the week here, on I think it was July 3rd, I talked
Well,
about
I
it.
wasn't so bullish earlier.
Well,
I thought I was, but I was a little hesitant at 600, and it did hold for one day, though.
yeah. Well, you thought that it might take a few days to get to the 600 area. This was back on Tuesdays. Let me just bring up the 3-day chart. We'll play that clip for our listeners here as well. That was nice 3-4 hours of consolidation, and I think we're starting to move up here again. I think we could see 600 today, so we'll have to see who's going to be right, who's going to be wrong on that. You were thinking it might take a few days. I think we might see it today, though. So yeah, you thought it was going to take a few days there, Joel. I thought I was going to see it today. It literally merged up to that 600 in the first hour of trading there. This would have been on the 3rd, which would have been Tuesday. Yeah, on Tuesday. I think it was Tuesday. Yeah, so it's just marched up there, got to the 600, actually just touched it. So I only got that because it touched 600 right on the nose.
Okay.
If it would have traded 599.99, he could have rubbed it in my face and said, I didn't see it today. But it got to 600 right on the button. Obviously, it continued up after that, though.
Yeah, and just notice with that, it closed at 99.53 that day, right near that number, and just nicked it on Thursday before it really took off. But moving on, Dennis, what else do we have?
Well, I just wanted to say you had a good call. I wanted to continue on with the Apple because you had another good call here. Like, it's not that often that we get a stock pretty this perfect. So we're going to give ourselves some props for the Apple this week because you talked about it. We talked about it possibly getting to resistance around 614. That is where it topped out. I mean, we probably got a little lucky on this one too. But you said on this, I'm just going to play the clip here. From today's show, that if it was to fall below 608, look out below, it might see 600. Hasn't quite got there yet, but let's just play the clip.
Swing number here at 608. If I was trying to protect any kind of profits on this move, I'd have a stop below that level. I think we could easily go back to 600 on the upside. I think.
So yeah, again, you had that one pretty good. You did pretty good this week overall. Bullish early on. You put in some bearishness here today. Man, I'll give you props here, Joel. You had a good week.
Even a blind squirrel can find an acorn every once in a while. But just going on, Dennis, I know you had a busy week with some of the stuff regarding high-frequency trading and the New York Stock Exchange going to the dark side, but I think it's getting to you a little. I think you're writing about this stuff too much. I could have thought I heard Darth Vader kind of come into our show.
You resisted.
Okay.
That was the clip from this morning's show. I had a little bit of use the force going on. Yeah, I had Darth Vader on the mind, I think. We're not calling the New York Stock Exchange Darth Vader. It's more just just a little. I have the picture of Darth Vader up there because I just felt it was appropriate because they're launching their own dark pool. Not necessarily evil, and we're not villainizing the NYSE for this move here. I can't blame the NYSE for doing what they're doing by launching this dark pool, because they can't compete with the OTC market makers. And if they need to get either one thing to happen. They need regulators to come in and regulate the OTC market makers, or they need to be able to participate in the game. So they asked to be able to participate, and the SEC granted the request. So it's good for the NYSE all around. I don't know if it's good for individual investors. What we would like to see is more transparency come into the market, as opposed to bringing more darkness into the market, so to speak.
Well, if they need to do something, if you take a look at that chart of the the Euronext, New York Stock Exchange. Ever since that merger fell through, this thing has just been going nowhere. From a technical standpoint, maybe if it breaks above 26, maybe you can have some faith in this. But just the move may be a little bit too late.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I think this was overall good for the NYX, so maybe that makes me a little bit more bullish the stock. But long term here, there's still problems, obviously, with the exchanges. All of the volume is going off exchange. They've lost market share. 10 years ago they had 90%. Now they've got, I think, 20% or 25%. So definitely the trend is not the friend in that case. Hopefully, some of these programs can maybe help them to get some market share back. But overall, we'd just like to see more transparency in the market. Joel, we should talk about what's going to happen with this market next week. It's going to kick off with Alcoa. Alcoa has earnings on Monday after the bell. $8.70 is where it's currently trading. This $9 area looks like a brick wall up there. From the downside, you've had almost triple bottom, you could argue, down here in this 828 area. So we're kind of channeling stocks. This last month, it's really been in a channel, Alcoa.
Are they? When are they going to stop following this stock?
I
When are they
know.
going to? When are they going to take it out of the Dow? I mean, it's just. I mean, 20 million shares. I don't know who's trading that. Probably a lot of robots are trading it and scalping out some pennies. I just every time I look at this thing, it's at or near $9, and here it is trading below there. Not a pretty chart. I can't imagine. I mean, every time they come out and they give these earnings, and they're always so it just stock just never goes anywhere. I think they need to take it out of the Dow.
Yeah, well, eventually that might happen if the stock continues to disappoint here, but it is the stock that always kicks it off, and they always say, they have it on CNBC, they'll be talking, oh, Alcoa is kicking off earnings season, so a
I
couple.
hope I'm short when they announce they take it out of the Dow.
Maybe they should start saying JP Morgan, Wells Fargo kicking off earnings season because they're coming on Friday. There's not much Tuesday, not much Wednesday, not much Thursday, a few smaller companies, but JP Morgan, that is going to be an interesting earnings report on Friday of next week. So 1 week from today, we will find out maybe a little bit more about how that quarter transpired with the whale trade and with all the other fun stuff. I mean, maybe that's why we're seeing this sell-off in JP Morgan ahead. Are they going to sell it off all week ahead of this?
Well, what's going to be interesting to see is how far they're away from their original loss projections, and then also knowing it's going to be another quarter, maybe before we know the full effect.
Right.
We were skeptical when that came out. It's tough to own a bank that's under that kind of duress. But that's our show. We're trying to hit our hits and misses. S&Ps hopefully can close above this 1340 area. But I think overall next week we're migrating towards 1300.
Yeah, we very well could. It's hard to say. You're kind of in the middle of the range here. You could still argue an uptrend. You might find some initial support in this 1325 area. We'll see what happens with Alcoa. We'll see what happens overall if there's any more economic news coming out. So it'll be an interesting week to say the least. It's a real big battle here between the Bulls and the Bears, and we'll have to see how it ends up.